always be closing. Carney seals the deal as the Liberals get their majority. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Mission accomplished. 50 weeks ago, Mark Carney led the Liberals to victory in a federal election, winning a minority government. 50 weeks later, with some deft political maneuvering along the way, the Liberals have turned that minority into a majority government. The Liberals swept all three of last night's by-elections. It wasn't even close in one of the safest Liberal seats in the country, University Rosedale in urban Toronto. That's the riding that used to be represented by Chrystia Freeland. Its newest MP will be Danielle Martin, who said she's thrilled to be part of Team Carney.
The Prime Minister and I, along with the incredible Liberal caucus that has supported me all through this journey, all share a stubborn belief about this country. We believe that Canada is already one of the most remarkable places on earth. We believe that the work of every generation of Canadians is to meet the world as it is, not as we wish it were, but also to take that world as it is and make it better.
It was a romp for the Liberals in that riding, with Martin winning 64% of the vote. The NDP candidate finished in second place with about 19% of the vote. In another part of the GTA, in Scarborough Southwest, also a riding with a long Liberal history that was previously held by the Liberal Cabinet Minister Bill Blair, Dolly Begum held the fort for the Grits, who also borrowed some of Mark Carney's lines for her victory speech.
And as Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, says, hope is not a plan, and nostalgia is not a strategy. So what does that mean? That means we cannot stand still. We have to do the hard work of building a country where opportunity is real, where dignity is protected, and where every single person has a fair chance to succeed.
Attracting Begum to run for the Liberal Party was a good catch. She wasn't a Liberal member. She was actually the deputy leader of the Ontario NDP, but voters didn't seem to care. She won the riding with almost 70% of the vote. It wasn't nearly as lopsided in the riding of Terrebonne in suburban Montreal, where so much drama has happened in the last year. In last year's federal election, the Liberals won that riding by one vote, but the result was challenged by the Bloc Québécois, who said the result was because of a mail-in ballot error by Canada Post, and the Supreme Court of Canada agreed and ordered a by-election. This time around, the Liberal margin of victory sits unofficially at 731 votes, meaning Tatiana Auguste will become the riding's next MP. CityNews Montreal political analyst Karim Boulos says the Liberal win in a Bloc stronghold like Terrebonne is the result of a Carney charm offensive.
You know, I think he's been riding a high. As La Presse recently said, the most popular politician in Quebec is Mark Carney. And so whether he was at the Montreal Canadiens game last week and being present and smiling, and I think the Davos effect is carrying him all the way through into this election. So, you know, at this point, he's got his majority. People in Terrebonne are deciding, not overwhelmingly, but, you know, more than they did in the fall, to sit on the side of power. Sit on the side of where budgets can be spent. The riding deserves to get more and receive more. And so I think some voters decided to vote strategically as opposed to emotionally.
Tatiana Auguste is 25 years old, and she is originally from Haiti. With last night's sweep and with the 5 defections via floor crossings, the Liberals now have a majority government with a bit of a cushion. The Liberals have 174 seats versus the 169 they won in last year's federal election. One of those floor crossers was NDP MP Laurie Idlout from Nunavut. The new NDP leader, Avi Lewis, sounded frustrated with how the Liberals timed the by-elections, coinciding with the NDP's leadership campaign.
This was a by-election that was called while we were in a leadership election, while the Liberals scheduled their leadership convention for the weekend before. It's happening in a time when people are distracted by daily explosions, literal and figurative, around the world. And it was overshadowed by a series of floor crossings, which we've already weighed in on. So we'll see what happens in the by-elections, and we'll parse the tea leaves with you tomorrow.
But whatever way this majority government came together, current members of it, like Southern Ontario Liberal MP Karina Gould, say it's needed to offer Canadians stability in a time of turmoil.
What a majority does is it provides some kind of certainty, some stability, both for the government and Parliament, but more than anything for Canadians. We are in a fraught world right now. There is so much uncertainty. There is so much instability. There's so much volatility. And I think what Canadians want, and certainly what I hear from people in my constituency and from around the country, is we want stability right now. We don't want to be in this moment where, things are uncertain in our own country. And I think it speaks to what the Prime Minister keeps saying, is that, as Canadians, there's a lot we can't control, but we can control our response, our reaction, what we're doing internally.
It was not a great showing for the Conservatives last night. They were well back in all three of these races. Not a big surprise, but in a post on social media, Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre said this Liberal majority government was put together, quote, through backroom deals with politicians who betrayed the people who voted for them. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
The Liberals have their majority government, and the Prime Minister was making an announcement today about gas taxes. Cormac McSweeney is the Parliamentary Bureau Chief for CityNews and News Radio, and he's back with us today. Great to hear from you, Cormac.
Good to talk to you again, Rob.
Well, the Prime Minister had a media event today after last night's big win, but he started with an announcement about affordability and gas taxes. What's the announcement?
Yeah, wasting no time to try and show that they're going to be taking action. And anybody who's driven in the last few weeks know how much of a pain to the wallet it is just to fill up your tank these days. So the federal government says that starting on Monday, they're going to be suspending the excise fuel tax on gasoline and diesel until Labor Day. That's also going to apply to aviation fuel. We know it's not just the price at the pumps that's gone up, but the price of airline tickets as well. And this has been a big strain for Canadians and their pocketbooks as of late. So it's obviously coming at a time when a lot of Canadians are trying to book vacations. They're starting to look at the busy summer travel season, maybe planning some road trips, things like that. And the Prime Minister says it's going to give some relief. It would be about 10 cents off the price of gasoline, 4 cents off the price of diesel. And the Prime Minister frames it as lumping it together with the federal carbon tax, the consumer carbon tax that he eliminated a year ago. And he says altogether that's about 28 cents off the price of gas. But of course, it's only temporary. It's only until Labor Day. That amounts to about $2.4 billion in lost revenue for the feds. Interestingly, though, it's the Conservatives who have been calling for this for some time, and the federal measure does not go really as far as the Conservatives have been calling for. They wanted to see gas tax relief until the end of the year. They wanted a suspension of the GST on gasoline and diesel as well. And they want the feds to completely scrap clean fuel standards. They describe it as a tax. It's not technically a tax, but they say it adds to the price overall. And so they wanted to eliminate that as well. They actually have a motion before the House of Commons on this. But the federal government says they didn't steal the idea from the Conservatives. They've been working on it, and they have an economically responsible plan moving forward that takes into account everything around the economy, but also saying the Prime Minister says he's welcome to hear more ideas from the opposition if it benefits Canadians.
Okay, so the Prime Minister was asked today what's going to change in the House of Commons and with his government now that he has a majority government. What was his take on things?
Well, it's interesting. He sort of carved out a path through multiple questions in this news conference about what things might look like moving forward. And he, sort of gives the impression that he just wants to continue governing on this. He talked a bit about economic priorities. Of course, he's got an economic update coming out soon. He says they're still looking towards short-term and longer-term projects in order to benefit the country. So those priorities haven't really changed that much. But some other things that are sometimes less about governing, Carney shot down the idea of a potential snap election. Yes, he just got his majority government through defections and through these by-elections. But the thing is, if you look at the polls right now and projections, he could have a much stronger majority if he called an election soon. So there's been a lot of speculation that that could still be on the table. He said he is not looking at calling an election. He was also asked directly if he's a one-and-done prime minister, that he just has his majority for this one term, and then he's out after that. He didn't quite answer. He said, I don't know. He said his focus right now is on governing the country at the moment. He also suggested he's not planning a cabinet shuffle anytime soon. And a very interesting question to the prime minister. He was asked if he were Pierre Poilievre, would he step down right now? Because, of course, Poilievre facing some questions about his leadership over the defections that have happened to the Liberal for Conservatives in the last 5 months. And now with this majority, whether Pierre Poilievre might stay on, he's indicated he wants to. The prime minister kind of laughed at the question and said he can't look into the heart of Poilievre, sort of allowing Poilievre to be the one to answer that question, and said he's willing to work with Pierre Poilievre and any opposition leader in the House of Commons.
So, Cormac, you've been on the Hill for a long time. What does it take for this majority government to become official? I mean, what has to happen for that to occur?
Yeah, I mean, it takes some time because we need these MPs sworn in, and that's not an immediate process. I fully expect to see the new Liberal MPs at the caucus meetings that happen every week on Parliament Hill. That's taking place tomorrow. So they'll likely be there meeting with their new fellow colleagues. I'm sure they're going to get a big round of applause and all that, and maybe the cameras will capture that as they enter the caucus room. But, they have to do a lot of paperwork. They got to get a lot of things figured out. They got to hire some people for their offices, and they have to be officially sworn in as MPs before they can technically take their seats in the House of Commons. And with the majority government as well, there's an interesting aspect here that even though they have the numbers, a razor-thin majority, only a couple of seats to get it passed, there's going to be a lot of work to do behind the scenes as well. The House Leader and the government whip are going to have the work cut out for them, making sure they get every MP to cast a ballot or cast their vote when it's voting time. They have to make sure they know exactly who is going to vote what way when it's not a whipped vote, so to say, where everybody has to vote the same way as the government, so that they know what is and is not going to pass. And as well, the committee situation is another thing that has to be worked out for the government. Committees are set at the start of the session of the Parliament. And with this one, it's a minority framework where the opposition MPs at the committee level have a majority of the seats in the House of Commons. And there was an agreement to change the standing orders on what the structure of the committee should be. If the Liberals want to change that, it wouldn't just take, proroguing Parliament, as some people have put out. They need to literally change the standing orders again to make sure that they could potentially get that majority at the committee level, because, there's a possibility that opposition parties could hold up legislation at the committee level, even though the Liberals have a majority government. So there's still a lot of things that need to be worked out in the weeks and months ahead before Mark Carney can sort of govern without having any concerns on his mind.
Okay. Thank you so much for the update, Cormac McSweeney. Great to hear from you again.
Anytime.
That's Cormac McSweeney, Parliamentary Bureau Chief for News Radio and City News. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
The Carney Liberals have crossed into majority territory thanks to the 3 by-election wins last night. By-election wins that followed no fewer than 5 floor crossings in recent months. 1 New Democrat, 4 Conservatives deciding to leave their parties and instead sit on the government side of the House of Commons. So a very happy Prime Minister Mark Carney was in Ottawa today and he took some questions from news reporters.
You've been able to obtain a majority in large part thanks to 5 floor crossers, which the Conservatives have labeled as anti-democratic. Are you concerned the way you got your majority will erode Canadians' trust in our democracy?
Well, first, I'd point to the election results last night. We have a majority now in the House of Commons, thanks to the electors in Scarborough Southwest, in Terrebonne, and in University Rosedale. And as concerns individual deputies who make a choice to support the government's program at this crucial time for the country, whether they're from whatever political stripe, orientation, geographic region they come, consistent with the government program, we're fortunate to have them, and we're moving forward together with them.
But the by-elections last night were in Liberal holds, so you didn't gain any new seats.
Well, I mean, Terrebonne, as-tu vu, Terrebonne, normalement, c'est... Ouais, c'est... OK. Dans le jugement du Corps suprême, ce n'est pas un liberal hold. Premier point. Deuxièmement, c'est la tradition. The deputies, we're fortunate that we have 3 outstanding new deputies as part of our governing caucus, Dolly Begum, Daniel Martin, and Tatiana Auguste, and that we accept the results, as I said at the start, with both humility but also determination, because it's a vote for the government's plan, those deputies, and for the government plan. We know we need to continue to work with all parliamentarians. We will do so. Work with all premiers, which we will do so. Work for all Canadians.
Now that you secured a parliamentary majority, do you have the mandate you need to govern, or will you call in an election in response to those who suggest the majority is not legitimate?
Well, I'd refer to my earlier answer. We live in a parliamentary democracy. Canadians elect deputies. Deputies vote with their conscience and support the program that they see best for their constituents and for the country. We do have a parliamentary majority now, and that is the product in the last 24 hours of strong support, increasing support for those deputies, the Liberal candidates, in those 3 ridings.
So not considering calling an election?
Not considering calling an election. Absolutely. I think very clearly Canadians.
I think that's good. That's the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. 169 seats in last year's federal election, 174 now. So the Liberals could, under the fixed election law, govern for the next 3.5 years. There wouldn't have to be an election until October of 2029. But there's lots of speculation about an early election, but Mr. Carney so far is ruling that out. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's our Tuesday Newsday political panel, time for Focus Alberta. With today, Matt Solberg, partner at New West Affairs. Great to hear from you again, Matt Solberg.
Thank you.
And Rob Breakenridge is a longtime political commentator, radio host, Calgary Herald contributor. Thanks for joining us, Rob Breakenridge. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, good to be here.
Well, Rob Breakenridge, let's start with you. The Carney Liberals have secured a majority government with the 3 by-election victories, but the majority has also been assembled in part because of floor crossings, including 1 Alberta Conservative MP, 3 other Conservative MPs. What do you think the reaction to this development is going to be in Alberta?
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately it is the floor crossings. Remember, these were all Liberal seats, although one of them, the one in Quebec, was a 1-vote victory in the last election. So ultimately, that's how this has been engineered. And I think there is that feeling that there is kind of an undemocratic nature to that these floor crosses were elected under different party banners, not under the Liberal banners, yet somehow this has paved the way to a Liberal majority. I think it plays into a bigger narrative in Alberta, and I think it's been the source of a lot of frustration, that whether it was a big minority or a small majority government, this isn't what Albertans wanted. And after successive elections of Albertans voting one way the rest of the country voting another way. I think that's where a lot of this frustration and alienation comes from, that we're not really in control of our destiny. Maybe we need to try to take more of a say in terms of the decisions made that affect Alberta. So that's what's playing into this conversation more than the specifics. But at the same time, too, I would add that if this majority government means the Carney government is able to move forward on some important issues, like, for example, the pipeline agreement between Alberta and Ottawa, that ultimately maybe that could alleviate some of the frustration in Alberta. So part of it depends on how he uses this.
Matt Solberg, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think most Albertans are going to look at this quite cynically. I agree with Rob on that. And in fact, this feels to me very much like 2014, 2015 provincially, when former Premier Prentice, orchestrated the floor crossing shortly before an election. And, he was immensely popular until he wasn't. I don't know that this scenario will play out that way for the Prime Minister. But I think that across the country, you will have folks that are upset about this, that see this as a bit too cute and not what they voted for.
Matt Solberg, do you think that this could give a boost in momentum for the independence movement?
Look, I think it does, and I think it will. The degree to which that movement is boosted is, that's the big question. And, the reality is right now, I think on the other side of the ballot question, those who are supportive of Remain, many of them are sort of sitting on the sidelines still and waiting for the signature collection process to play out. So, obviously the feeling of alienation is not helped by these kinds of political sort of machinations. But, I don't know how much of a boost this will have, because I think, those who are upset and supporting separation are already feeling white hot and have been for quite some time.
Rob Breakenridge, what do you think? Does this give increased momentum to the independence movement? Do you see the independence movement trying to leverage this, for example?
Well, I think they might. I think, as Matt alluded to, they're in a bit of a state of purgatory right now regarding their petition, with a judge last week not quashing the petition, but issuing a stay so that this petition can actually be verified. May 2nd is supposed to be the deadline, but this can actually be verified until this First Nations challenge is heard. So there's a lot of uncertainty as to what might happen next, or whether there's an expectation that the Premier just go ahead and put a question, and whether that might actually end up paving the way for an early election. So there's some of that political drama going on. Look, ultimately, I think a lot of the separatist momentum, again, comes from the fact that, Albertans didn't want this in the first place. Albertans didn't want the Liberals to be reelected. So whether that was 170 seats or 174, I don't know if that makes a whole lot of difference. I do think the worry for the separatist movement, though, is that this government can actually show some results. I think they were a little bit rattled when the MOU was signed last year, and I think now they've been able to say, well, obviously that didn't amount to much. But if Carney's able to use this majority to advance some of that, to move some of this forward, it could end up being a bit of a blow to the separatist movement. So I think, again, it all comes down to what happens now, and what direction now does Mark Carney take things, that he has a little bit more leeway. And I think that's going to have a huge impact. Look, if this all fizzles out, that ultimately is going to matter more than whether he's got a majority or a minority government.
Do you get the sense, Rob Breakenridge, that there's been any increase in support for the Liberals in the last year under Mark Carney?
Well, yeah, the polls would suggest that that's the case. Still in Alberta, they're, well behind the Conservatives, but being, 30 or 35% is kind of unprecedented territory for the federal Liberals in this province. I think even just looking at the by-election yesterday, these were, kind of Liberal seats, but, the Liberals did even better in these by-elections than they did before. So, yeah, I think that's the case. And that was obviously another way that Mark Carney could get his majority, was to try to engineer a snap election. So I guess he's opted for the different approach for now. But it would suggest that, I think there was just sort of that collective relief that a very unpopular prime minister was no longer in charge, and here was somebody new, and we see that he's not beholden to Trudeau or his legacy. Once again, we see today, the announcement that they're going to pause the federal gasoline excise tax. I don't think that's something Justin Trudeau ever would have done, and indeed there was pressure on him a few years ago to do that. So I think the idea that we got a different prime minister who's sort of got a different vision, a different sort of approach. That still plays well with Canadians, but ultimately, and this is going to be the test moving forward, to see the results, to show Canadians results.
Okay. I'll ask you that, Matt Solberg, when we come back, and we will turn our attention to provincial matters and Premier Danielle Smith and her political future when we return. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
We're talking about Alberta affairs today. Focus Alberta with Matt Solberg, partner in U.S. Affairs, Rob Breakenridge, radio host, Calgary Herald contributor, longtime political commentator. Has there been, Matt Solberg, an uptick, do you think, an increase in support for the Liberals in your province?
I think there's been even more so an acknowledgement, even if it's begrudging, that the Prime Minister is doing a much better job than his predecessor. I think that is clear in Alberta. Whether or not that translates into sustained support for the Liberal Party, I think is, still up for debate. And I also think that this is a very fluid moment. If the Prime Minister is able to deliver on the key parts of the MOU, like a pipeline, for example, then I do think that the Liberal Party fortunes will be much better. But the Prime Minister has bought himself some time, it seems, until he needs to go to the polls again, and so that does create an opportunity not just for his success, but also the flip side for him to stumble. And with some tough times on the horizon with, Kuzma and other challenges, I'd say it's too early to lock in those gains just yet.
Okay, let's turn our attention to Premier Danielle Smith in Alberta and what the bigger threat to her political success in the future might be. What would you say it is? And I'm going to break it down this way. Is it the NDP led by Mr. Nenshi? Or is it the separatist sympathizers and what I would call fringe elements within her own party? Matt, what do you think?
Well, I would say of those two, the separatist fringe is, certainly more of a risk. And I would, I think we call it fringe at our own peril. I don't think it is fringe anymore. But I do see that as being the biggest challenge on the horizon for the Premier. This referendum is at best going to be incredibly divisive, and at worst, something much more, much more problematic for her. But the bottom line is, I think she has to respond to the separatist element before she even has to acknowledge the NDP, who have not, who seemingly have not been able to make many gains despite some of these challenges for the Premier.
What do you think, Rob Breakenridge?
It's interesting. Like you look at Quebec, where you've got a separatist party in the PQ that could form the next government, or a separatist party in the Bloc that's they didn't win the by-election yesterday, but they're still a force in Quebec. It doesn't really exist in Alberta. I mean, there is something called the Republican Party that's ostensibly a separatist party, but that's not really registering. So in terms of electoral threats, there really isn't one from the separatists, but it's clearly the most important factor, I think, right now for the Premier when it comes to domestic politics, just because a lot of that is concentrated within the UCP. This new Polara poll up this week shows that 55% of identified UCP supporters say they would vote for separation. So it's very clear in terms of how much of a factor that is in the Premier's considerations and how she's been approaching all of this. Like along the way, she's made numerous legislative changes just to try to keep the separatist petition on track. And now with some of this uncertainty, it may not fall to her to be the one to say that this should be on the ballot, that it would be her calling the referendum on independence. So I do wonder, between all of that uncertainty and just the fact that they still seem to be enjoying a healthy lead in the polls over the NDP, the next Alberta election is scheduled for October of next year. I wouldn't be shocked at this point if we see that happen a little bit sooner.
How great a threat do you view the NDP right now, Rob?
Not much. I think Matt alluded to it. I mean,
really?
the NDP just hasn't really made the kind of inroads you might have expected, given some of the controversies or even the way that the UCP has handled the separatist issue, because still the majority of Albertans would vote to remain in Canada. I think there is some baggage that Naheed Nenshi brings as NDP leader from his time as Calgary mayor, and I think he's had a hard time overcoming that. It's been kind of an awkward merger of the Nenshi brand with the NDP brand. But honestly, I think the biggest factor was again, the Liberals being reelected. I think if Pierre Poilievre was the prime minister today, I think, Alberta politics would be completely different to the conversations we're having, the perception of the political parties. Remember when the NDP won an election in Alberta, the only time they won an election in Alberta, that was when we had a Conservative prime minister in Ottawa. So that's, and especially now with Abbey Lewis coming in as federal NDP leader, I think that's just additional baggage for the NDP here in this province.
Oh, yeah, I remember when the NDP won in Alberta and covering Parliament Hill at the time and hearing from the Conservative MPs from Alberta. It was like a wake. It was like a wake. Oh, my gosh, we've lost Alberta. What's next? Look, when we come back, I do want to ask you about poll results that were shared by a Liberal MP from Calgary, Corey Hogan, suggesting that the NDP could form the next government in Alberta because the NDP is popular in the cities. I'd like your take on that. When we return, this is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
We are talking about Alberta affairs. Focus Alberta. Rob Breakenridge is here, so is Matt Solberg. Calgary area Liberal MP Corey Hogan shared the results of a poll on social media and suggested the Alberta NDP, could form the next government of Alberta because of the party's strength in the cities of Edmonton and Calgary. What do you think of that, Rob Breakenridge? You think that's accurate?
Well, I mean, that's what happened in the last election, right? The NDP still kept a grip on Edmonton. They were competitive. They kind of split Calgary with the Conservatives, and we still ended up with a majority Conservative government. So compared to other polls, that one we saw this week is sort of best case scenario right now for the NDP. And even then, it's not enough, I don't think.
Matt Solberg, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think it's an outlier. That's not to say it's not accurate, but it does not reflect the trend that we see in other polls, including a very recent one from Leger that had the UCP at 53% with the NDP at 36%. So, I don't know if we can put much stock in any one of these polls, but I can tell you that it doesn't feel like it's accurate at this point, just based off the conversations that, I'm having with friends and family. So who knows? I'm more interested in seeing what the next poll says and if there is actually a trend or if this is just a one-off or best case scenario, as Rob put it.
Okay. Rob, how big of a problem do you think Abbey Lewis as the leader of the federal NDP is for the Alberta NDP?
I think it's a problem. I mean, not just in Alberta, I think in Saskatchewan, even arguably, Manitoba and BC as well. Because in those provinces here in Alberta, the NDP has kind of become sort of the left of center, big tent, moderate centrist party. And here along comes Abbey Lewis. Remember, he was the architect of the LEAP manifesto a decade ago, which was a huge headache for Rachel Notley at the time. Now it's basically become the party of the LEAP manifesto. So I think this is a huge issue. I just think it further drags down the NDP brand. I'd be curious to see whether the Alberta NDP is open to maybe a break at some point, changing their name, going down a different path. But just everything going on right now, it's hard for the NDP to get a footing, and this just makes the job that much more difficult.
Matt Solberg, what do you think?
Well, I think it's already forcing some tough conversations within the NDP party about, defederation, the Alberta party sort of de-affiliating, I should say, with the federal party. There's always, there's been a lot of speculation lately about, going further, rebranding. But, all of those conversations even have proved to be divisive. And, you can go on Twitter or on X and see, former NDP party leaders like Brian Mason talking about this and sort of discouraging the rebranding conversation. And so you just see the NDP starting to embark down a path in which Conservatives are very familiar, whereby, party unity could be at risk here. How Naheed Nenshi manages that and deals with that will be an existential question. He has to win a general election, but he also has to keep his coalition together.
Okay. Very interesting discussion. I really appreciate your insight today. Thank you so much, the two of you.
Well, thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Focus Alberta with Matt Solberg, partner, New West Affairs. Rob Breakenridge, longtime political commentator and radio host, contributor to the Calgary Herald. Talkback coming up next. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today we want your opinion on some news stories that are in the news cycle. There's the Mark Carney majority government. Official now. There was the announcement from the Prime Minister today, some relief coming at the pumps. And in the United States, Donald Trump is fighting with the Pope and is seeming to compare himself to Jesus. We want your take on any of these stories. I'm sure you've been following them. Comment on any of them if you want to, or just one or two or all three. The phone lines are open right now, 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. So last night it was a clean sweep for the Liberals. They won all three by-elections. That gives them 174 seats in the House of Commons, and it means the Liberals have a majority government now. It was never really in doubt. About the only question mark was what was going to happen in that Montreal area riding of Terrebonne, where it came down to one vote in last year's election, and last night's margin of victory for the Liberals was more than 730 votes. So it will be Mark Carney and the Liberals unshackled from any need to compromise with the opposition parties, because the Liberals will have the balance of power in the House of Commons for the foreseeable future. But here's a question for you today on this development. In the last year, Mark Carney has been able to attract people from other parties to come over and join the Liberal Party. He has lured over 4 Conservative MPs and at least 1 NDP MP. And when you look at the polls, whatever you think of polls, I mean, there's a clear trend in place. You see the Liberals are polling in the mid to high 40s. And that means the Liberals are clearly now pulling in support from Canadians who voted for other parties in the past. They are attracting support and winning over people who have supported other parties, people who have supported the Conservatives, from people who have supported the NDP, from people who have, in Quebec, even supported the Bloc Québécois, nationalists. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think Mark Carney is able to gather support from, say, people on the right side of the political spectrum, Conservatives, right of center people, and from people on the more left-wing side of the political spectrum, what some people would call progressives? What is it about Mark Carney? What do they see in Mark Carney? Maybe you're one of them. I've heard it from many people. Oh, well, I supported the Conservatives in the last election, Rob, but I have to tell you, this Mark Carney guy, he's winning me over. What is it with Mark Carney that so many people from differing political backgrounds think he is the right person for the job at this moment in time in Canada? 1-833-668-2577, 668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. That's one question we have now that the Liberals have their majority government. Then there was today's announcement from Prime Minister Carney that the government will temporarily suspend the federal fuel excise tax on both gasoline and diesel. That is going to go into effect next week. It will last until the first week of September 7th. So according to the government, that should lower the price of gasoline by 10 cents a liter and lower the price of diesel by about 4 cents a liter. It's similar to what the Conservatives have been calling on the government to do, although it doesn't go quite as far as what the Conservatives were calling on the government to do. The Conservatives wanted the government to suspend all federal fuel taxes for the rest of the year, which would have included things like the Clean Fuel Standard and the GST, which is paid on the total bill at the pump. It is tax on tax. But we would like to know what you think of that announcement. Do you think it goes far enough to deal with the rising cost of fuel that's been happening since the start of the war in Iran? Would you like the government to do more, do what the Conservatives have been calling for, suspend all fuel taxes for the rest of the year, as the Conservatives have been calling for? And what else do you think this new Liberal majority government could be doing these days to make your life more affordable? Not just gasoline, but overall affordability, whether it's prices at the grocery store, which we're told are going to go up, or housing, with so many people struggling with affordable housing, because it's not as though housing is any sort of great bargain these days. Affordability. The Carney government is giving us all a temporary break on the price of fuel. But what else could it be doing to make life more affordable? 1-833-668-2577. And Trump, yes, back in the news. Donald Trump has been very critical of the Pope, of all people, Pope Leo, an American Pope. And then yesterday, as I am sure you've heard by now, Donald Trump posted an AI-generated image of himself on social media that seemed to portray himself as Jesus Christ. The image was deleted from social media shortly after it went up, but the internet is forever and it's all over the place. Trump actually denied that the image that was posted portrays him as Jesus. He claims that he thought it portrayed him as a doctor healing people. I personally find that hard to believe. To me, when I saw the image, I thought it very clearly portrayed Donald Trump as Jesus. But when President Trump posts something like that, Trump as Jesus, what do you think about that? Does it trouble you? Does it shock you? Does it offend you? Or do you think, because I have heard this time and again, it's Trump being Trump. He likes to poke. He likes to provoke. He likes to be controversial. He likes to be the center of attention. He's a disruptor. What do you really think? Donald Trump posting an image of himself on social media that looks as though he's Jesus Christ healing the sick. What do you think of that? 1-833-668-2577. It is very busy in the news. There's a lot going on. The nature of your government in Ottawa has just changed dramatically because of the results of those by-elections. It's a majority government now for the Liberals. A big achievement for Mark Carney. But why are so many Canadians with so many different points of view willing to throw their support behind Mark Carney? Affordability, the gas tax holiday, and Donald Trump as Jesus Christ. What do you think of that? 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. Let's talk about stories in the news today. The news cycle. Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're gathering your opinions on some stories in the news cycle today. The majority government for the Liberals, the suspension of the gas and diesel excise tax today. So lower gas prices, hopefully, starting next week. Trump criticizing the Pope. Trump posting an image of himself on social media, portraying himself as Jesus. Jump in on any of those stories today. Diane in Calgary, let's see where the conversation goes. Hi, Diane.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, Diane. How are you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you
Good.
just fine. Loud and clear, yeah?
Okay, perfect. You know, I've been a conservative for years and years. And when I look back now and I'm thinking, people aren't voting the party. They're voting the member or the leader, the person. And since Paulier got reelected and he had to come to Alberta to even get a seat, so it's him. And his whining and crying, and like I said, I'm a conservative, but I certainly wouldn't vote for him back in at all, and I think that's the problem.
Okay, so you think Poilievre is pushing people away, that it's not necessarily anything to do about Mark Carney? You think it's a Poilievre problem?
Absolutely.
Someone raised that yesterday? All right,
yes,
interesting.
I honestly believe he's the problem. You know, the way he's going about things, you know, there's nothing positive. He's just running Carney down every time he opens his mouth. And you get tired of it after a while.
Okay, too negative. You think he's too negative?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, Diane, you've got us off and running there. Thank you. Let's go to Scott is up next, a first-time caller today. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how are you, Rob?
Yeah, I'm okay. Scott, how you doing?
Not bad. Love your show. Good show.
Well, thank you so much.
So I'm just calling in regards to your comment about what's the draw? Why is Mark Carney drawing people in? And yes. I think over the last few years, last 10 years, we've had somewhat of a child as our leader, I think. And I think people are looking at Carney as, you know, he's an upstanding citizen. He's a businessman. He's looked at our books. He's looked at other economies around the world. I think in terms of getting the country going as a businessman, he's looked as the right guy, I believe. And I'm a conservative, but I'm not unhappy if he gets this majority, because maybe we can get some stuff done.
Okay, so as a conservative, did you vote for the Conservatives in the last election? You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I'm just curious.
You know, I don't mind. I did vote for them. And, you know, unfortunately, I think Pierre Poilievre, from what I've seen of him and what I've watched him in cabinet, he seems very good, and he knows his stuff, and he's sharp. And I think he does a really good job in cabinet. But I think his first term, he set a lot of people off, even conservatives. And I think now, we had our opportunity to get a new leader, and they should have, even though I think he's a great, knows his stuff, but the people are turned off, and the Conservative Party needs to find a new leader. They really do.
They really do. So what I'm getting from you is you think Mark Carney is, say, more mature. He has, a better presence, so to speak? Would that be accurate?
I think so. I think so. I mean, in the past, you know, Stephen Harper, as he toured around the world, he had, he held himself well. He carried himself well, and I think Mark Carney does the same. I think he, has the ability to gain respect as a business leader and the leader of the country. So I'm not unhappy. Let's give him a chance to do what he said he wants to do, maybe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. There we go. Off and running today. The Carney majority government. As we ask, why are so many Canadians with differing political views? The first two callers say they're conservative. They're willing to support Mark Carney. They don't have many nice things to say about Pierre Poilievre. Affordability issues. The Carney government wasting no time, announcing today, right after capturing a majority government, they're going to temporarily suspend gas prices. Gas taxes, pardon me. So gas will go down 10 cents a liter, diesel down 4 cents a liter. But should they be doing more to help Canadians with affordability? And Trump is Jesus. Trump as Jesus. What do you think of that image? If you've seen it, I'd love to know what you think of it. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The Liberals have a majority government. They have announced a suspension in gas taxes for the next few months. Reaction to that. Trump sparring with the Pope, imagining himself on social media as Jesus Christ. Your thoughts on all these stories today on Talkback. Matthew in Halifax. Hello, Matthew.
Greetings.
Greetings to you, Matthew. Your opinion, please.
Well, regarding AI-generated images, it's tricky. With regards to our friend down south, shock value and honesty are not his best traits. I don't know what good traits there are, but I'll just leave it at that. It seems that Carney has done some good and has projected some great confidence on the world stage, and I see people getting behind him. That's great. I say that it is a mixed issue of people crossing the floor is not necessarily a way to ruin democracy. It's a way of expressing your where your beliefs lie and where you feel you can do the best work, honestly. And if you cross the floor and then your constituents don't vote you in again, well, then that's the wrong choice. But until then, until the electoral reform happens, then the rules are as they are, and you can cross the floor. That's fine. I've got a friend that is at the Autism Alliance of Canada conference that's going on today. Shout out to Danny, who I hope is able to call out Pierre Poilievre, who is a primary guest speaker at the event.
Okay.
On beliefs and being able to commit to positive change. I do understand that Poilievre may have an autistic family member, but
he does.
I want to
Yeah,
say
one of his children. Yeah, one of his children. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. That's okay.
If you're having phone problems, sir, I will let you go. Thank you so much, though, for your call. Let's go to Grant. Is in Calgary. Grant is up next. Hello, Grant.
Hello.
Hi, Grant. Yeah, your opinion, please.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with Carney. He seems to be not too bad so far out the gates. I'm not a Liberal supporter, but I guess time is going to tell. And I don't believe the people crossing the floor helping them get a majority is fair. I mean, people didn't vote for that. And Poilievre, I like, but I think he's losing momentum. And as far as Trump goes, well, we all know that guy just lies through his teeth, and it's just getting worse every day.
Well, I guess one of the questions that I would have, and you're the first to weigh in on that to any great regard, is do you think that's how he sees himself?
He's got a pretty big chip on his shoulder. I think he thinks he's somewhat godly, I would think, yep. And then, I seen a thing there the other day in the media, and he was, I watched the video there, they were all praising him and his biblical or religious advisor, they were praising him, and just the way they were talking was just like almost brainwashed, like cult-like.
Really? Okay. All right. Thank you for commenting on Talkback. 123 lines available to have your say. Just kicking around some stories in the news cycle today. You join the conversation if you will, please. Today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're gathering your opinions on some stories that are in our news cycle, like the Carney majority government. Many Canadians of all political stripes are now supporting this Liberal Prime Minister. Why do you think that is? Why are so many Canadians with different political views willing to get behind Mark Carney? Mr. Carney announced a suspension of the excise tax on gas and diesel starting this week, so that will lower the price of both. But what else could the government do to make life more affordable? For example, whether it's groceries or housing for that matter. And Donald Trump picking fights with the Pope, the American Pope, Pope Leo. And he also, Donald Trump posted an image of himself on social media, portraying himself as Jesus. What do you think of that? Shocked, surprised, offended? Not shocked or surprised at all? Par for the course with Donald Trump? 1-833-668-2577. 3 lines available there. The wait won't be too long at all. We'd love to hear from you today. Mike in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Rob. I'm going to be the minority, I guess, today.
Maybe.
67 and a half years, this was the worst morning I've ever woken up to. I
Jeepers.
have no love for Carney whatsoever, and I think he's nothing but pure poison. He is going to make this country even worse. 4 cents a liter on diesel, you know what I do and what I drive. It went from about $400, $450 to fill the truck. It's now about $700 or plus. So it's not going to help the trucking industry or any of the construction industry. 4 cents is a joke. So our inflation on things like food, anything that's transported and stuff, that's going to definitely go up again. As far as all this negativity towards Poilievre, all he's ever said was that he wanted to take a country that was mineral rich, oil rich, and start taking all that stuff and making Canada a major player in the world. And, I've never heard stuff come out from him that was super negative. He addresses issues that talks about the people of Canada, the situations that people are living in. If you think that it's negative that he talks about the longer line at food banks, numbers that are higher, well, think about what the message is. I am not happy at all that, as far as I'm concerned, Carney bought the Liberal majority in this country. I think it's an illegal outrage as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
and as far as Donald Trump goes, I don't care. I mean, what's going to happen
you just don't care.
in our country? I
don't know. When a political leader starts comparing themselves to Jesus, I get a little bit concerned.
No, but I mean, that's Donald. If anybody, like you just said moments ago, if anybody's shocked or surprised by it, I mean, just think about who the guy is. But
okay, all right, you're not worried about it. All right, Mike, I got you, Mike. Gonna run. Yep, got to fit in a few more calls here. $700. Wow, to fill up a big diesel truck. Ivar, up next, Calgary. Hi, Ivar.
Hey, Mike. I like how you cut off that last guy when he says that he likes
It's Rob
Trump.
here.
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. You often disagree with anybody who likes Trump. But, okay, getting on to Carney here, I think, it's a joke that he's got a majority government, how he bribed. Anybody can bribe somebody to, cross the floor. So I think it's a joke. And I think it should be illegal. So definitely.
Fair enough. Okay, you're using a pretty strong word there, bribed. You're using a pretty strong word there, bribed. Why are you using that word?
Look at the minister from Nunavut. Her son was facing some serious charges, and lo and behold, I wonder what can happen if I cross the floor and save my son some jail time. For sure. There's no
sure
doubt.
About that. I'm not familiar with that story, sir.
Oh. Really? Okay. Probably because you didn't hear it on Global. So what
Maybe.
about the last girl, the last minister who crossed the floor? What did she have? She was a good supporter, a good conservative supporter, and then all of a sudden she changed. Like she did a 180. Come on, she was bribed. She was given something. There's a backdoor deal. And it's dirty. It's dirty politics.
Okay, fair enough. But
I don't
why?
agree with anything.
Okay,
I don't agree with anything that Mark Carney
let's
does.
talk about. That's the upper echelon of the political food chain. But what about these polls that show he's drawing some? There are people who used to support the Conservatives that are clearly willing to vote for the Liberals now. Same with the previous people who would vote for the NDP who want to vote for the Liberals now. Why is that the case?
I don't believe the polls that the Conservatives are now voting Liberal. And I wonder about Liberals in general. You know, the Liberals voted in a drama teacher. I mean, come on, just because his dad was prime minister at one point, everything gets handed down to him? No, he was an idiot. He was an absolute, and they voted for him twice. This is a guy who had a lawsuit.
Three times, actually.
Over he had over $1 million lawsuit paying off a 16-year-old when he was in high school because sexual allegations.
Yeah, again, another story I'm not familiar with.
Another story that they didn't post on Global that is funded by the government, of course. So, I don't know about these Liberals.
I don't know why you keep bringing up Global News. I don't work for Global News. You do realize I don't work for Global News, right?
I understand.
No, I don't. No, I don't think you do. I don't think you do because you keep thinking, "Oh, Global News, funded by the government." I don't work for Global. I don't work for Global, sir. I don't work for Global. Okay, Google's your friend. Be right back. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gathering your opinions on some stories in the news cycle, whether it's the Carney majority government, the cut to gas taxes. Donald Trump thinks he's the Pope, apparently. 1-833-668-2577. Michelle is in Ottawa today. Hello, Michelle.
Well, hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm very good, Michelle. Thank you for the call.
Well, you're welcome, but I don't know where to begin, to be honest.
Let's start somewhere.
Well, I'm with Mike. I am sad today that there are just that many more people that are willing to continue supporting the Liberals. I don't know how or why they have that opinion, because even just in the last year with Carney at the helm, there haven't been any new trade agreements. We've had a bunch of memorandums of understanding, some MOUs, but no actual trade. Other countries are investing in other countries. They're not investing in Canada. And why is that? And we've got investment leaving Canada. Carney's investments are not even here in Canada. His wife doesn't even live in Canada. She lives in the States. So anybody who is paying attention, and that's the problem. They are following the mainstream media, which is funded by the government, so they're not going to be negative towards the government. You need to get into the independent news organizations and support them, because you will get a clearer idea of the political landscape. Like, obviously, they didn't listen to Pierre's interview with Dave, the Diary of the CEO. That was a beautiful, a magnificent interview. It showed an excellent side of Mr. Pierre Poilievre that most people don't know. Okay? I don't see how they can be angry or upset with him. Yes, as leader of the opposition, yes, you have to oppose. You have to say, okay, we don't like this because, obviously the Conservatives are wanting a different direction than the Liberals, so they're going to oppose the Liberal policies. And even Pierre has said, take my policies, please, right? And which Carney has. So to Carney's credit, this is a good thing, because he has done some of the things that
I guess
Pierre
what I'm trying to get at, Michelle, is what I'm trying to get at with this, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the Carney Liberals are more popular today than they were when they won the election 50 weeks ago. It's been a year-long honeymoon.
Yeah, well...
You don't understand it? Okay.
No, I don't. Because on what grounds do you believe that he is more? We have more debt. We have a $1.2 trillion debt. We are paying so much interest on that debt. Money that we should be paying towards health care and education, and not $90 billion high-speed trains either, okay? Real infrastructure, bridges, roads, the things that people use every day, okay? And
all right.
I don't know. And now that he has a majority, the legislation that's going to come through, and the push to spend billions more on a gun confiscation program and the censorship laws that they're bringing in, we're in for a world of hurt.
Okay, in for a world of hurt. Thank you. Eric in Cole Harbour up next in Nova Scotia. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Rob, you know what? It's 15 degrees down here and sunny. So I'm enjoying it. I don't know what you...
Enjoy it, yeah. That sounds great.
Anyways, your previous two callers, there's a lot of things they said there. I'm not going to get into that, but there's a lot of things they said there that I sort of agree with. Now, I'm just going to keep the Tracy Master happy today and be very quick. This thing with Donald Trump and Jesus, if it was his intent to mock our Lord, then he's going to pay a serious price for that. So,
I think so.
I've always had an open mind towards Trump, trying to be fair. But he's actually, to be honest with you, he's pissed me off in the last little while. If this thing with Jesus is true, then may God have mercy on his soul. So I'll leave that at that. The other thing is, he really made me angry when he talked about our soldiers in Afghanistan. Maybe he should talk to some of his American generals and see what our men did in Medusa. See how brave the RCR, the Horse Artillery, and the PAC, what they did. And
they were right there. They were right there, weren't they, Eric? They were right there in the thick of it.
That's the boys. The boys were, That's right. And the boys were right there. So you can see the look on the generals' faces when he made that comment. If I had been there, I would have slapped him across the face. So I'll just leave that at that, because I can say it in Canada. If I was in the United States, I'd probably be in jail. Now, with Carney, I have serious reservations, and I've said this before, so I'll be quick. I'm very concerned about central digital IDs and central bank digital currency. And right now, 134 countries in Europe are setting that system up. To go from there, you look at England and Stammer. Carney him and Stammer are really, really good buddies. So I have fear that we're going to lose our sovereignty over our own money. And then I think we're headed down the road, the system they have in China, because it seems to me, I spend a lot of time looking at this and listen to people that are a hell of a lot more intelligent than me. You can see the pieces being put together. That's my fear with Carney. And the third thing is, if he's spending money, but he's spending it on the military-industrial complex. He's not helping the people that are sleeping on the ground in the streets. And we don't have, in my view, Rob, we don't have a civilized society unless we're looking at those people that are the most vulnerable right now. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. 1-833-668-2577, despite the bevy of criticism that you have heard about the Prime Minister and about the Liberal Party, the fact remains, set aside these by-elections. If there was a federal election, I mean, you're looking 200-plus seat majority government easily for the Liberal Party right now. Why is that the case? That's what I want to get at. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The Carney Liberal majority government, the cut that's coming to gas and diesel taxes starting next week, that was announced today by Prime Minister Carney. Donald Trump picking fights with the Pope. Not many takers on that topic just yet. 1-833-668-2577. All stories in the news cycle. Brian in Calgary. Hello, Brian.
How are we doing today?
Very good, Brian. Thank you for your call. Your opinion, please.
Yes. Basically, I don't know really where to start, but this is like as a longtime Conservative supporter, like obviously I'm very, very disappointed how Mark Carney was able to get a majority government, and it's like I've seen past majority governments in the past, but it doesn't surprise me. It's not coincidence that you got these floor crossings happening like they have when a minority government to begin with was so close to a majority as a result of the last federal election. And then of course, for the person who called in like a few callers ago talking about like, Pierre Poilievre, he had to go and get a seat vacated in Alberta so he could run in Alberta. Well, the problem is that unfortunately the reality is the way that our British parliamentary system works right now, it doesn't work because one little strip of Canada's population, and I'm talking about the 401 corridor between Quebec City and Windsor, Ontario, are getting to determine who gets to run the rest of the country. And I don't really like that. Like, to me, the British parliamentary system, to begin with, does not work in a country that is geographically as big as what Canada is. Right. It needs to be reformed. And as far as I'm concerned, like, history has also shown, too, that floor crossers who end up running as incumbents again, history has shown that they do not get reelected the majority of the time. Why? Because people vote not for the person, but for the party, the brand.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And my biggest concern about Mark Carney always has been is that for the latter half of Justin Trudeau's tenure as Prime Minister, Mark Carney, it's simply been a known fact that he was basically his puppet master. And basically Mark Carney is just carrying on where Justin Trudeau was left off. We got ballooning.
You don't think Mark Carney is, if I could, sir, you don't think Mark Carney has made a departure from the Trudeau years?
I don't think so, and here's a couple of reasons why. Because we keep getting our debt and deficit skyrocketing, and this government just keeps catering to the so-called woke movement. And what I'm talking about here is this bogus Bill C-9 that they're trying to get passed. And I will state for the record, Rob Snow, I am a Christian believer, and I take very, very big offense to any passages in the Holy Scriptures having to be censored out, that we can't say any of these things. To me, that's a blatant like a disrespect towards our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Like, we have freedom of religion.
Yes,
people. I got no problem with people agreeing to disagree, but I don't think it's a good idea for the woke movement to have it its way and try to have people censored. We're guaranteed that right in the charter.
Thank you. They're playing the music, sir. That will have to be the end of hour number one, a lively one, to say the least. Let's keep it going in the second hour of Talkback today, after we bring you right up to date on the latest breaking news. That's coming up next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Gathering your opinions on some stories in the news cycle here in hour number two of Talkback. Welcome to it. I'm Rob Snow. We've been talking about the Carney Liberal majority government, guaranteed as of last night, and 3 by-election wins. But many Canadians of all political stripes seem to be getting behind this Liberal Prime Minister. Why do you think that is? Or you can comment on the announcement today, the suspension until September 7th of the excise tax on gas and diesel. That starts next week. So that will lower the price of gasoline by 10 cents a liter. Diesel prices have been much higher than gasoline prices and are much more important for the overall health of the economy. They'll drop by 4 cents a liter. Donald Trump criticizing the Pope, posting an image of himself on social media, seemingly portraying himself as Jesus Christ. What do you think of that? My gosh. Are you offended by that? Shocked, surprised, not surprised at all? Is Trump after all? What do you think? Let's get it going. Tyler in Red Deer is up first in this hour of our program. Hello, Tyler.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call.
You are welcome.
Hey, I think that it was Poilievre's idea originally to drop the fuel tax, and I remember Carney kind of denying it to begin with, and now maybe he's making a concession to the Conservatives who are, let's just face it, we've been pounded into the ground for a decade, and another kick to the ribs, well, it's not so much at this point. But I've figured out my solution. Like, I think I'm going to have to try another country. Like, I don't know. I mean, this programming does not compute for me. I mean, I'm aware of my thinking. I could be creating my own alienation, sure, but the way I've been raised, my programming is not really computing with this country. I think the East really has a tyranny over the West, and this is evidence of that.
Okay, but and previous callers have mentioned this. Right before the news, we heard from Brian, who said, the election is decided, and to a large extent, he's right, between Quebec City and Windsor, and of course, that's where so much of half the population of the country lives there. So there are a lot of seats there. But is it not then the obligation, I would say to you, of the Conservative Party to present a leader and a vision for the country that would appeal in that part of the country?
I think it's not about the leader; it's about the party. The Americans are more about who's the president. I think if people hate Poilievre, I mean they hate him. That's an individual. It's not the party. Mind you, I don't think the Conservatives would do much difference in terms of governing either. They would probably drop the fuel tax, go deeper in debt, not balance the books, etc. I'm fed up. I don't think I'll ever see a party like even the Conservatives representing really the view that's the heart of Alberta. I'm a fifth-generation Albertan. There's a culture out here that the East maybe doesn't understand. And hey, you're allowed to have your perspective, but we have a different one here, and it's getting squished, it's getting crushed, and it's not being treated as if it were something that should be preserved. And it's a Canadian thing to preserve, perspectives of population groups. And I feel like, a term that was toxic back in the Harper era was that the old stock Canadians out here, they're really just bottom of the barrel. People hold their nose. BC and Ontario, they move here and they vote Liberal. That's fine. That's their prerogative. But you're kind of crushing something organic that's been here for generations, and that breaks my heart. I think I'm ready for a divorce with Canada.
Getting ready for a divorce with Canada. Okay, Tyler. Maybe we can order some counseling for you. I don't know if it'll do any good, but thank you for your call. We're going to Kitchener, Ontario, actually, right now. Mike is in Kitchener, Ontario. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Mike. Thank you. Yeah. What's your opinion, Mike?
Well, I'm going to start by a disclaimer. I am a progressive conservative. I would consider myself a progressive conservative who has voted for Mark Carney in the last two elections. So just so you know where I'm coming from. My question really is about Pierre Poilievre. I'm going to paint a hypothetical for you because I am really confused now. We can go back. He blew the election, had to run in a safe riding, all that stuff. The three by-elections last night, even though they were not ridings that the Conservatives could consider strong riding, all three ridings, their support dropped double digits. Okay? And if you go to 338.com, which is a poll aggregator, and I know Conservatives don't like to talk about polls, but
sure.
Even they
go
were
to that website all the time.
Yeah. They were even shocked last night at how poorly the Conservatives did. And, the talk is that if there was a snap election today, that probably 40 to 50 Conservative ridings would probably be lost based on where the polls stand today. So here's my hypothetical. Mark Carney tomorrow morning gets up and he looks at these polls and he goes, woohoo, I'm going to call an election. Okay? Where does Pierre Poilievre run? Because I find it very odd right now that we have a free agent leader of the opposition who hasn't declared where he's going to run. And that kind of tells me that he knows he's schnooked. And maybe. I can't believe that the Conservatives continue to support this guy, and he hasn't even said where he's going to run. So I guess my question is, if there's an election tomorrow, where does he run, Rob? Where does he go?
Well, I have a few ideas about where he might run. I think he's going to seek a seat in the Ottawa Valley. That's my own. It's purely speculation on my part, but there are some MPs in the Ottawa Valley, just outside of the city of Ottawa, like an hour's drive outside the city of Ottawa, who've been there a long time. And I think they're going to take their own walks in the snow, and I think that would provide an opening for Mr. Poilievre. Purely speculation on my part.
But do you not find it odd to have a leader who really doesn't have a home?
No, not right now. He has a riding, Battle River Crowfoot in Alberta, and Mr. Carney has a majority government. He says he's not going to call an election, and he doesn't need to now. He has a majority government. He doesn't need to be an election for another 3.5 years. So what's the rush?
I guess. Thanks for your time, Rob.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Again, what I'm asking is, and to the caller's point, Mike in Kitchener, to his point, you look at a Liberal Party in the mid to high 40s, that means they're drawing support from people who in the past have voted for the Conservatives, in the past have voted for the Bloc Québécois, in the past have voted for the New Democrats. They see something in this Prime Minister. I'm merely asking the question, what could that be? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Back to Calgary we go on Talkback today. Kaleo? Am I saying that right?
Sir.
Kaleo? Yes, you're on. Go ahead.
Yeah, just give me a couple of minutes uninterrupted so I'll express the both sides problem and whatever the people are thinking. My views might come at the end, but let me just give you some views. Yes, it sounds really good that, for Liberal Party that, they won a majority again in, I think, since 2019. And now they can do whatever. But there are many question marks on their past performances. Are they really doing any better? Many people say in Canada now that, they are stuck between bad and worst. So why bad and worst? Because if you look at the Liberal Party's performance, the economic performance overall, it was very bad for the last 10 years. So Canada are facing with the worst economic hardships, especially all the Canadians, including myself. High cost of living, housing crisis, higher taxes, high cost of fuel and energy. Crime rate is up, extortion, drug-related issues. During the last decades, Canadians' dream became really horrible for many new Canadians. So quality of life went down drastically. So after this majority government, so people are thinking, now what? Same old immigration policy, same climate rant, discouraging natural resources development, anti-oil and gas policies, job opportunity scarcity for many young Canadians, high taxes, open drug policies, more empathy for street crimes and criminals in Canada. People are stuck between bad and worse. Why? Because if you look at the CPC, so many people are saying, Conservative Party strategies and leadership they are blaming for this, especially landsliding Liberal majority. They're blaming to the Conservative Party's leadership and for everything. Why? Because now they have a full House control. But if you look at what is called from the many folks, even my friends are saying that they're blaming Conservative Party's political strategies and leadership for Liberal Party's majority. Because many saying that Conservative Party nomination flaws, favoritism, ignoring many ethnic communities, lack of inclusion, equity, and all of this cost them this election. So Conservative Party political strategy and narrative is very vague on separatist movement, Trump wannabe, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and all those things. So many communities have trust issue with CPC since the Stephen J. Harper. So that's my overall.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I've given you your say. Let's go to Zach is up next in Calgary. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Zach.
The Trump Jesus image is very offensive to me, as all sacrilege is. Trump obviously thought it was a funny joke, and the media trying to spin this differently from that obviously knows that. But the cheapening the healing power of the Lord into a political cartoon is gross. And kind of on that note, I'm fascinated, but also not surprised that like all the leftists and a lot of the media are suddenly outraged by blasphemy. I didn't hear them shocked or outraged during the Paris Olympics when they mocked the Last Supper, but that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. I was just curious if people think that's how does Trump really view himself like that, as some kind of savior or some kind of messianic figure?
I think he saw a funny meme online and he reposted it, not thinking too much about it. That's just my opinion. But a lot of politicians and people now, they don't take blasphemy or sacrilege seriously, and that includes him. And I think it was the wrong thing to do. For the
what do you think? Let me just ask you something else as a person of faith. Zach, you've been open about that in the past. What do you think about him criticizing the Pope and attacking the Pope in the way that he... Yes.
I was actually just going to talk about that because any history buff, and I'm sure you're one of them, but there are countless examples of tension between the Emperor King and the Holy Father. I think when those disagreements come up, it should be done with charity and respect. The Pope is the leader of the largest Christian church on earth, and he is the successor to St. Peter. Obviously, there's strong disagreements, and tension is totally fine and normal. But I think when Pope John Paul II, he spoke out against the Iraq War pretty strongly, and I believe Bush handled it very respectfully, maintaining that relationship and being like diplomatic about it. I think that's the approach. That's obviously not Trump's style. we all know that. No. But the Pope isn't just another elected, politician to kind of mudsling at, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree with everything you have said today, Zach. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Staying in Kitchener with Joe. He's on the line. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Rob.
Joe.
The writing was pretty much on the wall when they got a perceived adult to take over the party, the Liberal Party, after the idiot clown stepped down. But it's disgusting that they're allowed to take power this way. Would require electoral reform to have a by-election as soon as you cross the floor and leave your party. Now, who would vote for a by-election for electoral reform when it benefits you the most? So since that's not going to happen, let's hope that Carney is the adult that we all think he is, or that they think he is. But on the Trump thing, you and I and reasonable people know that the Bible Belt is the biggest support of Trump across the continent. And now he just took a shot at the Bible. So, am I surprised? No. Shocked? No. Where we go from here, it depends on the blind idiots that keep voting for him. And regardless of what he does, now that he took a dump on the Bible and the Pope, let's see where that goes. But, Rob, at the end of the day, I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it'd do me any good in any of these things. So.
I understand, but I think you're onto something there. I don't know. To your point, Joe, I mean, how does that play in some parts of the country with evangelical voters or with Catholic voters? Zach pointed out, Catholic voters are the largest voting bloc by faith in that country. Like, how is that going to go over with those
Absolutely.
people?
It's got to be scary for people in the Republican Party that are still working with reason and logic. They're sitting there going, "Oh my God, did he just say that? No, he didn't. How do we mitigate this disaster?" Well, you can't. It's out there now, and priests are going to be preaching to the faithful in the choir, and it may come out in the wash, but then again, the guy seems to be like a Teflon Don, so it remains to be seen. Yeah, it should be interesting, Rob. Should be interesting.
Yeah, very good, Joe. Yeah, thanks for your call today. I don't want to bring anybody on right now. So Pat and Kitchener, Dwayne and Kitchener, please be patient. Hang on the line. If I bring you on right now, we'd only have 30 seconds. Curtis would start playing the music. It would all be very uncomfortable and inconvenient for everybody. So why don't we'll just take a deep breath, take a little pause, bring everyone right up to date on the latest breaking news, and then we'll get back to some of our news cycle stories that we've been kicking around, whether it's the Carney majority government, gas tax relief on the way. Better late than never, I guess. Donald Trump picking fights with the Pope. Donald Trump posting images on social media that portrays himself as Jesus. All of that, if you want to weigh in, please do so and join the discussion right after the news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
It's been very busy today on Talkback, but we do have some lines available. Probably 4 or 5 lines there right now. So the wait won't be too long. We've been talking about the Carney majority government sealed last night with the 3 by-election wins, but I mean, all you have to do, look at the polls, okay? Ignore the floor crossings for a moment and look at the polls. Many Canadians of all political stripes are clearly supporting the Liberal Prime Minister. We're wondering, why do you think that is? Why are so many Canadians with different political views willing to support the Prime Minister, who made an announcement today about the suspension of the excise tax on gas and diesel starting next week? We have been asking, what else could this government be doing to make life more affordable? I mean, it's not just gas, it's groceries, it's housing. And Donald Trump, a few takers on that, criticizing the Pope, posting an image on social media where he seems to portray himself as Jesus. What do you think is going on there? 1-833-668-2577. Let's get to Dwayne. Thanks for being patient there, Dwayne, and waiting. You're on the air.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for taking my call today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
A couple quick points I'd like to make. I know you've had a busy day here today, but first of all, regarding Mr. Trump and that image you put on social media, I guess as a Christian, me personally, I find that very offensive. And I think he's going to pay big time for midterms this fall as a result of that. So
right.
just an opinion.
Yes, I agree.
The other reason I'd like to talk to is regarding Mr. Poilievre. There seems to be a lot of talk about him not being the leader that the Conservatives need right now. They need to make a change. But personally, I think we should take a look at some history here. Back in the fall of 2024, Mr. Poilievre was up 20 points ahead of the Liberals. And then Mr. Trump showed up and Mr. Carney showed up, and all of a sudden things changed. His policies remain the same, his personality, his viewpoints, his style basically haven't changed from then till now. So how did that all happen? My view is that the Liberal Party made Mr. Trump the target, and they said they're the only ones that can handle Mr. Carney, only ones that can handle Mr. Trump. And the electorate bought it, and here we are. Personally, I think Mr. Poilievre is the guy that should be in the leadership. He's been consistent. He has been very clear in his views, what he thinks Canada needs, and I stand by him. So I thought people should just take a look at how that all happened. But I think if Kamala Harris had won, we'd have Prime Minister Poilievre in our parliament right now.
Oh, really? That's interesting. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say, people will say, oh, he blew it. Well, the highest that the Conservatives were polling at, the pinnacle, when Justin Trudeau was so deeply unpopular and Poilievre was packing him in at all those rallies, probably about 45% support across the country. They ended up with more than 41% of the vote. Pretty good number. Best election result for the Conservative Party since 1988. You compare that, 2018, Andrew Scheer's leading the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party gets 32% of the vote. Aaron O'Toole in 2022 is leading the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party gets 33% of the vote. By the way, percentages that were higher than what the Liberal Party achieved, and they still lost. Poilievre boosts that by almost, 8 to 10 points. Gosh, still loses.
Well, I think the reason for that is the collapse of the NDP, and the Bloc also lost.
Collapse of the NDP.
So if the NDP would be strong, and the Liberals in their usual percentages, because up in the past, the left has been divided. Now the left is all Liberal, basically. And so it was just basically a numbers thing. And I don't think it was because of Mr. Poilievre's policies. It was just that the NDP basically disappeared, and they went Liberal. And remember, the Bloc went Liberal. But like you said, the Conservatives actually did better last election than previous. So
very good analysis. Sorry, Dwayne. Yeah, didn't mean to cut you off there. But we will take another call here. Very good analysis, though, Dwayne. Thank you. Brian in Calgary. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good, Brian. Thank you for your call, sir. Hope you're well. What's your opinion?
My opinion, and well, first of all, I'm conservative, been conservative all my life. But I think Carney's popularity is growing because he's doing and saying what the people want to hear at this point in time. He's doing a lot better than his predecessor did, for sure. As for Mr. Trump is Mr. Trump, and you can't change the spots on a leopard. He'll always be that way.
Okay. Just circling back to Mr. Carney, you say he's doing and saying a lot of things that Canadians want to hear these days, such as, sir, can you provide an example for me?
Well, hey, just the news this morning, the 10 cents on a liter of fuel. You know what? A lot of people are saying, hey, it's about time. Too bad the provincial governments wouldn't follow suit. So that's just one quick example off the top of my head.
Yes.
I mean, he is increasing pensioners' monthly allowances and stuff like that. I mean, that's all things people want to hear, and especially in this day and time with the price of everything.
Okay. Now, you're in Calgary. Do you think it's registering in Calgary or in Alberta?
I do.
You do?
I see a lot more of my friends moving over to the Liberal camp.
You do.
But, as your previous callers have said, the elections are always decided in the East anyway. So Western Canada really basically just follows suit, and it's a formality that we vote.
Yeah. Again, if people are frustrated with the East, whatever that means, whether that means Newfoundland or whether that means Ottawa, or Windsor, the East, it's up to the Conservatives to put forward. I bring this back to put forward a compelling vision that would appeal to voters in the East. Don't you think?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I agree 100%. As for Poilievre as a leader, I think he's got some strong ideas, but his camp doesn't seem to be on his team all the way through. And you can see that by people crossing the floor.
Fair enough. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. Lots of time left to talk back today as we kick around some stories in the news cycle. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
One of the things we've been talking about today is the Liberal majority government asking what it is about Mark Carney that he seems to be attracting support from people who wouldn't otherwise identify as being Liberals. What is it about him? What is he offering? That so many Canadians think, yeah, that's my guy. That's the person who's going to get my vote. I mean, you think about this. You think about just some of the people he has lured over the Liberal side in the last year or so, as unsavory as that might be. Matt Genereux, Conservative from Alberta, from Edmonton, but still from Alberta. You have someone like Marilyn Gladu. No history of supporting the Liberals. She's more right-wing than a lot of conservatives are. She's a social conservative, very conservative on social issues, not just economic issues. Part of Team Carney now. Chris Donchermont from Nova Scotia. No real history of being a Liberal. Maybe a little more of a red Tory in the Atlantic Canadian tradition, but someone who is also known to have held social conservative views in the past. He's a Liberal now. So those are three conservatives. Then in this recent by-election, in the Scarborough by-election in the GTA, the Liberals managed to find a candidate from the Ontario NDP who has said some pretty and expressed some pretty radical left-wing ideas in the past. She's in the Liberal fold as well. And as I say, it's not just what's been happening with elected officials. It's what's happening with popular support for the Liberal Party. The support for Carney and the Liberals is actually higher than it was when they won the election a year ago. It has been a long honeymoon, like a year-long honeymoon. The marriage between many Canadians and this prime minister, it is still very much in the newlywed phase. Now, the prime minister was asked many questions today about the majority government by news reporters while he was making this gas tax announcement in Ottawa. Let's listen to it a little bit.
You've been able to obtain a majority in large part thanks to 5 floor crossers, which the Conservatives have labeled as anti-democratic. Are you concerned the way you got your majority will erode Canadians' trust in our democracy?
Well, first, I'd point to the election results last night. And we have a majority now in the House of Commons, thanks to the electors in Scarborough Southwest and Terrebonne and in University Rosedale. And as concerns individual deputies who make a choice to support the government's program at this crucial time for the country, whether they're from whatever political stripe, orientation, geographic region they come, consistent with the government program, we're fortunate to have them, and we're moving forward together with them.
But the by-elections last night were in Liberal holds, so you didn't gain any new seats.
Well, I mean, Terrebonne, as-tu vu, Terrebonne, normalement, vote in favor of those individual deputies. And I would remind that we are in a parliamentary democracy. Canadians elect the deputies. We're fortunate that we have 3 outstanding new deputies as part of our governing caucus, Dolly Begum, Daniel Martin, and Tatiana Auguste, and that we accept the results, as I said at the start, with both humility but also determination, because it's a vote for the government's plan, those deputies, and for the government plan. We know we need to continue to work with all parliamentarians. We will do so. Work with all premiers, which we will do so. Work for all Canadians.
Now that you secured a parliamentary majority, do you have the mandate you need to govern, or will you call in an election in response to those who suggest the majority is not legitimate?
Well, I'd refer to my earlier answer. We live in a parliamentary democracy. Canadians elect deputies. Deputies vote with their conscience and support the program that they see best for their constituents and for the country. We do have a parliamentary majority now, and that is the product in the last 24 hours of strong support, increasing support for those deputies, the Liberal candidates, in those 3 ridings.
So not considering calling an election?
Not considering calling an election. I think very clearly Canadians want government to govern, to take action on immediate concerns such as today, which is what we're doing on affordability. And I would note that the first thing we're doing as a minority government is continuing to attack affordability challenges that we know Canadians are facing while we're building a stronger economy. So we have that ability to move forward, and we'll continue to work with Parliament in order to put our plan in action.
I just wanted to push you a little
Mark
bit.
Carney in Ottawa today, less than 24 hours after securing a Liberal majority government and still polling in the mid to high 40s in popular support. Seemingly pulling support from people who voted Conservative in the past or NDP. They're even pulling support from people in Quebec who would normally vote for the Bloc Québécois. That riding in Montreal is a suburban riding off the island in Montreal. The Bloc has done very well there in the past, and they've lost that to the Liberals. So even the Nationalists in Quebec, it seems, are willing to give Mark Carney a shot. What is it? Why is that? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, let's get right back to the phones on Talkback here in our remaining few minutes with Andy in Calgary. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Andy.
I will address your 2 points very quickly. One is Mr. Trump.
Yes.
As a Canadian, I will not worry too much what Mr. Trump tweets and deletes. He is doing this since he became president the first time and the second time. So that's not my worry at all. The second is a liberal majority.
Yes.
As an conservative Albertan, I am deeply concerned with a liberal majority government. This means continued industrial carbon tax, no pipeline, no development of oil and gas. We cannot prevent Ontario people from voting for Liberals. But as Albertan, what we can do is to pursue our initiative for an independent Alberta.
Oh, really?
Those who have not signed the petition, please do so. This is our only way out in this country now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, sir. But I understand it. I appreciate it. And believe me, I'm watching it with great interest. I will just point on the closing moments that we have here. Quite a few organizations out with statements today on this gas tax announcement. For example, the Montreal Economic Institute, which is very much a free markets style think tank out of Montreal, obviously, but it also has an office in Calgary. They do some work out of Calgary. Suspending the excise tax on gasoline must be made permanent, according to the MEI, Montreal Economic Institute. A step in the right direction. The government should make this measure permanent. Taxpayers have not yet recovered from the inflation of the past few years, when the rapid increase in the price of gas came along and shrank their purchasing power even more. A temporary tax holiday only helps temporarily. If we were to make this reduction permanent, the government would be returning hundreds of dollars a year into families' pocketbooks. That's one. Then there's Dan McTagg, Canadians for Affordable Energy, who said one effect of this will be to knock off about 4 cents a liter off diesel prices, which is especially meaningless as diesel is the lifeblood of the modern economy. The price has the biggest inflationary impact on everything. If he had to choose, the Prime Minister should have dropped the GST, which adds about 11 cents a liter onto the current price of diesel in Eastern Canadian provinces that have a harmonized tax of 8 to 10% on top of Ottawa's GST. It's more like 28 to 33 cents a liter. That is a major driver of inflation for all goods, including fuel. And the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, my friend Chris Sims, who's the Alberta director there, wants Premier Smith in Alberta to follow suit and cut Alberta's fuel taxes, noting that if Premier Smith moved in lockstep with Ottawa, the provincial fuel tax savings to drivers would be another 13 cents a liter on gasoline and diesel. So quite a bit of reaction to that announcement from some agencies and organizations that follow it. Back tomorrow. Thank you for all your calls today. We'll have a brand new topic tomorrow and more of your calls. And until then, the latest breaking news, always on News Radio.